until the very end. And on top of that, it was only weeks later that Rupert Grint and Emma Watson also confirmed that they'd take Ron and Hermione to the very end. It was finally confirmed the cast would remain until the conclusion of the franchise, and fans were ecstatic to find out, only bringing excitement higher for the future releases, which led to April 2007, where a second trailer for Order of the Phoenix came out, showing more action, more energy, and further glimpses of Lord Voldemort. With marketing ramping up in anticipation of release, it was confirmed that director David Yates was going to return for the 6th installment, set to be released November 2008. This would be the first time since Chris Columbus that a director would helm more than one film in the series. But excitement ramped up, all leading to the July 11th release date, where, according to the posters, it was time for the rebellion to begin. I didn't know this was a Star Wars prequel, but you know what? I'm down. Order of the Phoenix was a pretty mixed bag of a film. Being the first to release after Goblet of Fire, it has some pretty big shoes to fill, and it'd be naive of me to think it could fill them all the way, but it does fall short in a couple key areas. That being said, this movie also has a lot of good stuff. For one thing, the movie moves at a pretty brisk pace. This is because this is the shortest one so far, sitting at 2 hours 18 minutes. The movie hurtles towards the climax at an effective speed. You're never bored at any point, which is always good. The story this time around is about how the Ministry of Magic is interfering at Hogwarts. You see, the Minister doesn't believe Harry and Dumbledore. They don't want to believe that Voldemort is actually back.
The evidence that the Dark Lord has returned is incontrovertible. Stop! Look!
So they end up sending Dolores Umbridge to teach defense against the dark arts, and she is the worst. I just love to hate this character. Every time she's on screen, you're just immediately ticked off. And that laugh she does, Then there's the moment where Harry is writing lines, and then the lines start carving into his hand, and she's just standing there with a smug look, like, you are an evil woman. I'm sure the actress is a really great person, though. I mean, I'm sure she's great. But this character, But it's because of Umbridge's interference, her slowly taking over the school, that leads to a band of students teaching themselves defense against the dark arts. This is probably the best section of the movie. Harry is becoming a teacher, he's becoming a real leader this time around. And the sequence is pretty fun. There's lots of quick moments, there's lots of funny stuff. It'd be real easy for this movie, especially after how the last one ended, to go full tilt into darkness. But it does spend some time trying to keep that whimsy from the earlier movies, which is nice. That being said, Harry isn't really fun to watch here. He's angsty and angry all the time. I mean, I know why. I get it. It makes sense for the story, but it just makes him less fun to watch. However, there are some good moments between him and Sirius, and I'm glad they put in some time to grow this relationship a bit. Could it use more time? Probably, but I'm glad they tried to give it some more. Now, this wouldn't be a Harry Potter film if they weren't after something. Turns out, Voldemort is after something he didn't have last time, and that thing turns out to be a prophecy.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. And the Dark Lord shall mark him as his equal, but he shall empower the Dark Lord.
And this is basically a Chosen One prophecy. Now, I've never really been a fan of Chosen One prophecies, mainly because I think it takes away from a character's agency and turns them into some kind of legend instead of a human being. It's one of the biggest faults of the Star Wars prequel. But I think a larger problem here is that the prophecy is an element from the book that's lost in translation. In the book, the prophecy is like this whole paragraph. In the movie, we get a couple lines, and we don't really understand their significance, but then Lucius Malfoy shows up and tells us it's important. So maybe if we hear the full thing, it's destroyed. And no one ever mentions it again, so I guess it wasn't that important. But this does lead to probably the best climax thus far. Giant wizard battles. We got a taste of wizard battles in the last one, but this one goes all out. Bunch of wizards turning into clouds and blasting each other, lots of sparks, firecrackers, good stuff. Sirius just died. Man, it's a fairly effective death though. I mean, mainly due to Daniel Radcliffe's performance, which is pretty heartbreaking. But this leads to probably the most intense showdown of the entire series. Voldemort versus Dumbledore. They are masters of wizardry. Neither one can touch the other. Their spells are so complex and well executed. It's a scene that's really well done. And ultimately it ends with the minister himself seeing Voldemort with his own 2 eyes. He's back. Harry and Dumbledore are exonerated, the minister is to resign, and Umbridge is to be tried because, again, she's the worst. And so the film ends on a bit of a higher note than the previous entry, despite Sirius dying. But at least there's a shred of hope this time around. Maybe, just maybe, these characters can pull this together. They can defeat Voldemort once and for all.
Extraordinary. The Mohg.
Reviews for Order of the Phoenix were once again mixed, but this didn't stop it from becoming another box office juggernaut, nearly cracking $1 billion worldwide. Billion with a B. Due to the film's box office success, the Harry Potter franchise became the most successful film franchise in history, topping other top contenders James Bond and Star Wars. Harry Potter was now king of the world. All this led to the highly anticipated release of the 7th and final book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which became one of the biggest events in literacy history, breaking the record of most books sold within 24 hours. Seeing the new movie, reading the final book, it was a massive 1-2 punch. One that satisfied fans the world over. But now, with the book series concluded, all eyes turned towards the remaining films. On September 24th, 2007, production began on the next chapter, Half-Blood Prince, with Jim Broadbent taking on the role of Professor Slughorn. Production on Half-Blood Prince continued into 2008. For the most